Hello and welcome back to Mirror's Signal podcast, your weekly podcast sponsored by Knowledgeably Instructor Training, award-winning CPD providers. Stay tuned to the episode to get your discount code from them. Today's episode, we are joined again by Dr. Julia Malkin. This will be Julia's fourth episode, and it is episode 80. In today's episode, again, we'll be talking about our neurodiverse learners. But this episode is more about the positives and how we can work with that in the car. So working with the brain, understanding our learners, and what that might look like on a driving lesson. So as always with Julia, lots of knowledge, lots of insights throughout this episode. So before we get to it, if you've got any questions for me or you would like any more information on the show, you can find me either on the Facebook page or in the Facebook group, and they're both available at Mirror's Signal Podcast. If you would like more information from Julia, I will leave the information in the description and the show notes, or you can sign up to Julia's membership over on Patreon. And to find that, just search for Talking Send with Dr. Julia Malkin MBE. And this is a membership that gives you access to lots of videos helping you understand your neurodiverse learners. And again, that can be found on Patreon. For now, we will get on with the episode. I hope you all enjoy. Julia, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hi, thanks very much for having me. Thanks very much. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm great, thank you, and really looking forward to the conversation. This is the fourth time that you've been on the podcast, but we've also filmed a mini series that will be going out soon. So I'm really looking forward to this episode to really delve into some of the positives that we've been discussing.
I think everybody will learn a great deal by watching this. They will learn, and that's what it's all about. That's why it's such a good thing. Yeah.
That's what I'm finding. We talk
Yeah.
regularly, and obviously we work with the Patreon stuff for yourself. And there's just so much to learn. And something that I found, I think sometimes we can see things as a negative, like some of the conditions, we automatically think, oh, this might be a challenge or this might be difficult. And what I'm realizing is there's often the other side of the coin where, okay, some aspects might be a bit more challenging, but then the other side is things just get picked up so quick. And it's just like, okay, we've got that. Excellent.
Well, yeah, I mean, it takes me back to my own diagnosis. And when I was diagnosed autistic, I was 40 then. That diagnosis paper was so negative that I had depression for 2 weeks after reading it, and I had to go to the doctor because everything is negative. Do you realise that that report said the smile looks more like a grimace? I didn't smile for over a year because of what that report said. This person has trouble with this problem, that problem. As this person grows older, will need more support with this one, and that one. So everything is total negative. There was nothing in there about the type of support that was needed. There was nothing there about any positives a person had got. There was nothing about anything that could be improved if support was given. It was just a massive load of black, horrible mud. I mean, it was glue. It was sticky glue. You get your brain stuck in that glue, and you can't get out. It's just like being engulfed in some horrible, sticky black tar. That's the nearest you can put on it. You can't, you're picking at it. You can't get a thing off. And you're thinking, that's me. Is that really me? When I had that depression, I was on those horrible tablets. They were terrible. And I thought, I've only got two choices with this thing. I can either accept the diagnosis and look at these papers and think that is me. That is in my head, and that is my head and my body, and I'm like this bit of paper. Or I could deny everything that paper said and say that's not true of me, because I thought if I followed that first bit and think that is me, I could end up in hospital being pumped up with drugs or something. I mean, this is depression that was kind of borderline suicidal. I knew what was happening because I'm that way, you know, had 4 suicide attempts already. I looked at that and thought, well, if I did this, if I thought that was really me, it wouldn't be worth me living tomorrow. Or you could deny everything that that paper said. Every word that paper was written on it, you would say that's untrue, that is not me. And I had no choice but to go down that route. And it was by going down that route that you start uncovering some positives about being on the spectrum, about having ADHD and all of this, because you needed those positives to hang on to keep you alive. Otherwise, you end up going down the other route and finding life's no good. You've got to find the positives of this thing. You've got to know that there's something positive because you need something to cling to keep you running. So that was the reason why that every single time there's a new person on the spectrum, I'm looking for something positive in the person. Because they've got depression too, you know. They suffer as well. Bullying and teasing and you're no good, you're a slow learner, and I'm no good, I'll never do this. I've always got a problem, I can't make friends and can't go out, I'm always on my own and depressed all the time. And I thought if I found, you know, if I got a couple of positive points myself, because it is very, very hard for anybody on the spectrum, I think, to see positives in themselves, but if you can, then that helps you pick it up in other people. And if you can pick it up in other people, that means you can pick those people up when they're really, really not on the ground, they're under it. And you got to understand that it doesn't stop at zero. One of the first things you got to know about the autism and ADHD kind of scaling is it doesn't stop at zero. There's minus numbers on it, and you got to think you got to pick these people up from this kind of -4, -5 up to naught again to make them functionable, and then pick them up a bit more, which is why we need positives so much. We need these positives. You have to pick them up from that point. If you've got a pupil with ADHD or something, and it's always negative, negative, I never do this, I'll never do that. I have driving instructors come into me and say, I don't know what it is about my pupil. Every time people get to the car, it's always loaded negative. And I get this over the phone, I get this online. I get people come to me and they say, this pupil is so negative. This pupil can never see it, even if they do something right. And that's what I call parking the positives. They park a positive. They won't put it in here. It goes elsewhere. They always park it somewhere else. So it's kind of, it's like good luck. It's I had a good 5 minutes. It was because you helped me. It's because there was no traffic. It's because the sun was out and all of this. So anything that happens that is good, they won't log it in here. So trying to get them to even see something positive can be very difficult. As I was saying, it's hard. If they had a fat negative report about a diagnosis showing who they were, is it any wonder why they feel so negative about themselves? If they're negative, if their paper's read like my paper, what would they feel like as a person? That's why it's so important to be able to discover positives in the people. Even something very tiny, something very small can make a difference to the drive and a difference to that person doing the driving.
So what are some of the positives or strengths that we can look for? We've done things in the past, and I'm not going to say it's been focused on the negative, but we've looked at what things we might find challenging in the car. But what kind of strengths can we be looking for if we start with, say, ADHD and learning to drive?
Right.
What strengths can we look for from the beginning that we can kind of use to the advantage of the pupil?
But that's the thing, when you look for ADHD, when you mention the word ADHD, what image do you usually get? It's usually somebody fidgeting around, somebody chasing around, kids bouncing off the walls, etc. Somebody hides a cat on Ritalin, someone who needs tablets to help them function, somebody who can't concentrate, makes trouble and kicks up in class. But they always think of it as being kids, don't they? And they keep forgetting that the condition changes as you grow. So by the time you get to drivable age, it's a bit different. But the ADHD has got a lot of positives. And the only trouble is the positives are linked to past history. Society's altered. Now, when humans are tribal, you need somebody at the front, didn't you? You needed somebody to tell predators and prey at a good distance. You want someone to spot for changes in the environment very quickly, to be able to lead the hunter-gatherers, both to find the food and to be aware of predators. You need those guys at the front who would react swiftly to warn the people or to lead the people, saying, hey, this is it over here, come on, let's go. And so to do that, you've got to be on the ball, you've got to be very sharp, you've got to be very keen senses, keen vision, to respond to a slight change in the environment that you saw. You've got to be constantly on the go. You have to have energy to keep you running. And to be able to do that, you've got to be kind of a totally different person, everyday person to do this. You have to constantly kind of on the alert with a lot of radar hearing and sensitive eyes, you know, and thinking, wow, there's a difference there. You can see it. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And what's changed is the environment itself that the people are now in. That kind of person will not function well in a society that is constantly saying, sit down, sit still, and shut up. And that is the environment the society has altered. And these people have always been there. So there's nothing to do with vaccines, nothing to do with anything else. These people have always existed. There've always been those at the start looking around saying, hey, there's environmental change. What does it mean? Let's go and investigate it. So they're very impulsive. They've got to be able to react in a fast impulse quick and make fast impulse-led choices. That's been their way, is the way of the person to do that. So that kind of reaction in the sit-down world doesn't run very well. But if you look at the situation in the car, you're thinking, right, what will a person react to? So the first thing that you need to train the impulsive behavior towards, because that's going to be part of the person's makeup in there, is to get that part of the brain working on hazard perception. Get them to know what a real hazard is. They'll see subtle changes. It's incredible how fast they can do it. They can spot changes in the environment very, very quick. Okay, you get them to go ahead and scan that roundabout and see which one they think is going to be the hazard, how many hazards they can spot in a certain length of time. And when you turn the corner, you're going to stop at the side of the road. How many hazards are you going to spot as soon as we stop? Let's have a look, see how many you can see. And so that's how you first of all you train the brain. You're training that brain to be able to spot hazards quickly. Now, this is what the ADHD person can find fairly easy. Cars parked up. Do it when the car's parked up, so they're not multitasking, so it wasn't straining anywhere else. You're just constantly hazard searching. What hazards can you see that's now here in front of you? And which instance can you see? What can you see with other road users that could turn into a hazard? What about our car at the T-junction or pedestrians on the curb? And sometimes it can make compound incidents out of it and all sorts. And all these people just emerge out of the street. They could cross over the lights and not sure the lights are going to change or not about the other drivers. We've got to watch them as well. It's kind of up, 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 up. They can get some good running commentaries coming with this out of ADHD. And you can really get them to see the scene. And sometimes the depth that they can go into is a lot more than the everyday driver. The everyday driver, when I was in the IEM, I was taught the everyday driver can perceive 10% of the hazards around them to react to. And of course, with training, that goes 10, 20, 30. I've been trained to about 80 when I was doing the IEM training, but the ADHD can usually see much more than that without being taught, and they can really train that brain to be able to spot hazards very, very quickly.
Did you notice that? I know you didn't get diagnosed. Was it autism you got diagnosed with at 40, or was it a? Where did your diagnoses come in?
Well, which
In relation
question are you
to the
talking about?
brain?
About 15 questions in your
Yeah,
sentence. Whoa, slow down with
I'm still
neurodivergent people.
learning,
Slow
Julia.
down. Now, ADHD, like, you know, ADHD, it
Yeah,
didn't exist in the 1970s under its current kind of terminology, but I was diagnosed as hyperactive, which was their way of saying, back in 1973, 74. So I'd be about, what, 6 or 7 then. And they gave me Valium, one of the big, strong drugs. And it was terrible because it took 3 hours to walk 3 streets home from school. I'd only be about 6, 7 years old, and I had a count on that stuff. It was no good. But in the 1970s, that's what they did. They just gave people a load of tablets. That was the lot. They didn't go into what was causing or anything. One of the things, because I was adopted, one of the things adopted parents noticed was lack of sleep. I wasn't sleeping. Brain was constantly on the go. It wasn't wanting to rest or settle down. It was like wanting to, hey, what's that over there? What's this over here? What can we do tonight? What's happening? It's got one to go, and the brain won't stop running. And it was causing bowel trouble, loo trouble, food trouble. The energy would, we're thinking, wow, what's this? So I'd go to the doctor and say it's hyperactivity. And so they knew what this hyperactivity was in those times. And what they did was think, right, put them on the tablets first. Now, the tablets, 4 days later, was off. Then it lasts 5 minutes, so back to the doctor again. And when I was like in the doctor again, I had a few kind of brain tests, memory tests and such like for kids in those days. And nonetheless, it read quite high. And I was thinking, right, give this child something really good to do. And what the family did, you won't believe it. The maps on the wall, and it was citing capital cities of all the countries, and there was about 8 or something. And then there was like, because, they didn't realise that autism was giving me the high IQ on top, and I was able to do it and play it all back. Some of the stuff I was able to do was playing inter-county chess and all sorts, and play chess for the schools, things like that. It's part of the school teams. There's all kinds of things I was doing because the brain was saying, yes, you can do this, spotting hazards. You can do the same when you spot things on a chessboard, you can spot it. I mean, I always call motorway driving the mobile chess game because you're always anticipating everybody else's moves, aren't you? And I call it the motorway the mobile chess game for those who play. And so they can understand it. They can understand that. I think, oh, wow, right, okay. So I'm on the chessboard. Let's get going. And so hazard spotting, be able to spot things like that and be able to find ways around. The ADHD's very, very sharp. We'd be able to spot things. They're excellent spotters, and you can really use that particular part of the brain. I mean, spectrums are come by in place. 70% of all neurodivergent people usually have one dominant condition. That's the one that usually gets diagnosed first. Now, with me, it was the ADHD because that was diagnosed first. Now, I was 40 when I had the autism diagnosis. Up to 2013, they did not believe that the two would exist in the same person and would never diagnose both on the same day. But notice I had 2 different days with quite a large number of years that separated them, you see. Yeah. So then they were able to find the 2 present in one person. So there's always one condition that's kind of like big dominant, easily seen and easily diagnosed. But the others are very subtle. They can be hidden. Some of these are quite hidden. I wasn't diagnosed with dyslexia until I was about 42. But when you have the combined kind of brain like that, with several different parts, you have to teach each part of the brain, you have to run a different task. I know it's quite difficult, but I can teach it over the internet and in the workshops to do it. And there's all kinds of ways you do it. To kind of let you switch on a certain part. This does this, that does that. The ideal driver, to me, is the neurodivergent driver. And the total neurodivergent driver the total one with the ADHD brain that can spot the hazards quick, the systematic autistic brain that knows the routines and sticks to the systems and the speed limits and knows all the knowledge of the road. Got really good at planning things in advance, so there's no spontaneity and things like this. Remembering all the highway code inside out, that kind of thing. Then you got the dyslexic type of brain. They are the ones that can solve the problems and create different solutions. Oh, I know what to do about this. There's a big load of homework. I can find a way around this. Let's see what we can do to find it. And they're not afraid to have a try. They get a problem and they can find a strategy. They create things. Dyslexic people go at creating things. So you get the ideal person is kind of like a neurodivergent or a giant. You're going to be able to spot the hazards well in advance. They've got excellent routine systems put in place with everything from the highway code to the rules of MSPSL, etc. And then after that, you've got the creativity, which dyslexia can put on top. And sometimes, especially with the autism, it can put a high IQ on a person, like it's done to me. And that gives you all those other skills like seeing to your people and teaching and things like this that the IQ top puts on. But then you end up understanding others as well with the same conditions. You see, the ideal driver is a neurodivergent driver with combined conditions, because then that driver can see out to other people. Oh, don't worry, that's nothing to do with a driving lesson. That's something because they've got ADHD. Or this particular person, that's why they're having trouble with the changes on the road because of the autism spectrum. So that's what we can do with this. And sometimes you can see yourself in other people. I have 7 what society would call differences and what the medical model, unfortunately, would call some cases disabilities. But if you add all those 7 up and put an IQ on the top, you're going to get a good driver when they're well trained. I know it sounds incredible, but it's like in modern society, there's a special word to describe when each individual part together produces something stronger than the whole. And that's what you're going to get. So look in your pupil. They come to you and say, hey, I'm ADHD. So with ADHDs, you don't anticipate, oh, wow, what they're going to do. They're going to fiddle all day and they're going to be losing their attention. They won't concentrate. They won't focus on 2 things. You get them to focus on finding the hazards. You get them to focus on what they can spot. So it's things that are easy for the brain to focus on. You train the brain. That's the first thing you train the brain. You've got to work with the brain. Don't work against the brain. And I've talked about that as well. So when you're dealing with this kind of person, you also look beyond the ADHD. You're thinking, right, 70% of neurodivergent people have got another condition as well. Where's that? They probably won't know themselves. But watch out for the subtle changes. I mean, I train people to look for all these points and the different behaviour patterns. And if you find a behaviour pattern, you ask your pupil if it's okay to discuss it and find out where it came from, and they say, oh, that's part of the autism, that's part of the ADHD, when actually it's a different kind of condition. It's something different there. But you found it. You found a different response in the brain that you can do something with. And you're thinking, right, we can work with this bit. So then the more you learn, the more you're going to learn. And the more you know, the more you're going to know. And it works like that. So that's how ADHD can start off with. People have got ADHD. I'm expecting them to be fidgeting around in the seat all day, and they're thinking, no, you got to think beyond it. Yeah. Because some people think, oh, I can't take ADHD. I won't be able to learn about ADHD. I won't be able to handle them with ADHD. But a lot of the time, I mean, I train a lot of people to do it. And also, you can ask your pupil about how the ADHD is going to affect them as well. ADHD is a spectrum too. Some ADHDs you can spot as soon as you get into the vehicle. Others you can get triggered. Something can set the ADHD off. It can be a situation where they're under stress. It could be a situation that's full of traffic because they hate waiting. It could be a situation where they make decision making. And you're thinking, will it be an impulse behaved decision or will it run systematically? So that's what you're looking for, is that kind of thing. I know it sounds incredible, but I think of the ideal driver as being some kind of mixture of all different sorts of the neurodivergent conditions that you get to make up the whole. It's just the way you see it, because I've seen so many people out there and can see it. What do you think?
I think it's great, and I can see it, like the positives. I see it in the lessons, especially like I get the benefit of working with yourself, and we talk quite regularly. But if we look at autism then, and again, people have, I guess, a view of what that might look like when the pupil
Yes,
comes
they
into
do.
the car.
Yeah.
But what
Mention the
would,
word autism. Yes. What are you going to think? You're going to think of a kid sitting in the corner rocking itself. Yeah. They're sitting in its corner doing the same thing over and over again, maybe spinning pens, spinning balls, etc., spinning wheels, etc., in the same way that it's not speaking. That's only one part of a big spectrum, as we were saying. It's a big spectrum, and just the desire to learn to drive can give you an idea of whereabouts on the autism spectrum they are. With autism, for example, I had a person on the autism spectrum I was training, and he got very upset when a big Volkswagen camper van came out of a T-junction, cut him up, and made him do a full emergency stop. And it was a beautiful emergency stop, because they're very systematic autistic people, like everything to be spot on. And I was very pleased with him, and he was upset about this vehicle cutting him up. And I says, oh, don't worry, they'll do that. Let's see if there's anybody else who could do it. And he says, all you got to do is remember that maneuver, that emergency stop there. Because one of the things about autism is that they get afraid very quickly. So I always teach all the autistic people emergency stops where you can go on the main road, so they know what to do. So they've got that little safety mechanism put in there that says, I am safe when I'm doing this, because the world's a chaotic place for people with autism spectrum. They can be quite frightening. So it's one way of easing the fear and the pressure off them. They love routines, like sticking into routines. People with autism spectrum love it. To be able to know they're in a safe environment. They love safety. Now, this particular pupil, we were 6 weeks and 6 lessons later on a totally different stretch of road. And all of a sudden, I noticed his feet were getting ready to do an emergency stop. And I says to him, what have you seen? Now, the ADHD person will probably see about people have 500 yards down the road of the roundabout doing something and they can do ready for it. But this autism, you're thinking, no, it's something they've remembered by rote and are playing back in their head. So, what is it? I say, what have you seen that's making you want to do emergency stop? He says, it's that same vehicle, that camper van that pulled out in front of me. And it was parked at the side of the road. So it's obviously not going to cause any difficulty. It's totally stationary. But he was getting ready to do his emergency stop. And I said to him, how do you know it's that particular one? I've remembered the number plate, he says. And he memorized that plate of the one that cut him up and just drove down the road, and he disappeared in about a minute or less. And 6 weeks later on a different stretch of road, he memorized the same vehicle. And he saw it again and was ready to perform that emergency stop just like before. Now, when you're dealing with autism, sometimes it's a computerized brain. And when it gets computerized, it's almost like a big filing system. And for some reason, this autistic person had put this particular vehicle into this is dangerous kind of file where it says, get prepared to do emergency stop. So notice that it's not impulsive behavior. It's not the way its ADHDs do it. It's systematic. This vehicle equals danger, therefore I react to danger this way equals it. It's a nice little mathematical equation, isn't it? Yeah. So I had to unwrap all these files up. You have to reprogram this computerized head. Right, okay, stop at the side of the road. So we pull over and stop the car and walk over to where this big camper van is. And we go round it. And it makes sure there's nobody in the cab, there's no sound, nothing. So then he knows how to take it out of that file in there, so we know it's not a dangerous vehicle. This one is parked. So it's then that we're training the brain, you're working with the brain again, we're training it to be able to recognize the difference between these hazards, and to be able to recognize just because something repeats itself doesn't mean it's dangerous a second time. There it is, it's parked up, right? This is how parked vehicles are. And that's how people are going out of T-junctions and thinking, right, so now we're starting to categorize everything according to class. Now, the dangers of parked vehicles, which kids going round them, etc., and things like this happening. All of a sudden, there's lights coming on and tails of exhaust smoke, etc., that could warn you. So we're dealing with warnings. So that was put in the same category as parked vehicles, but that was a different reaction that was needed for vehicles cutting up at the T-junction. So, but that's what he'd done, is automatic. Now, everybody else I know would have problems getting hold of the person's number plate in an emergency situation in the first place, memorising it when the car's out of sight about 30 seconds later, 6 weeks later on another stretch of road, seeing the same vehicle again, recalling the number plate and reacting like that. Now, who could do that now? Us on the spectrum can. See? Use the rote memory as the autistic strength. We can memorise facts, figures. Many of us, especially high-level ones, will love doing it. They love memorising facts, and I had one until I was teaching how to memorise facts of the highway code. He can talk about the motorway. Yeah, of course he can. He was saying, oh, do you realise that the hard shoulder is 1 foot wider than the lanes in the right? I said, yes, it is, yes, it is, yes, it is. And if he's able to absorb all the facts and everything. And, and I said, it was teaching a different fact every time, you see. That increases the motivation. It wasn't just the driving that was a task, it's the fact that that brain was going to have something else to put in the fact section. And that's what he was looking for, yeah. Word of the week we used for some of them, and then others were having things like hazard of the week and the reaction to it. So everyone was having this different way in which the brain would learn to be rote. So it wasn't spotting like the impulsive ADHDs. It was fact rote learning for the autistic brain. So thinking, right, fact of the week. So you have the word of the week for the level 3s and just learning a bit of language. The level 2s will probably know hazards, and they know each type of hazard reaction. And they love it because they apply the facts. So I always give the autistic ones a homework. And they say, see if you can apply this to driving when you're in the bus or when you're in the taxi, when you're with your mum and dad. And they come back and the mobile phone's full of pictures of drivers that they'd seen and situations that they've been in. And I was saying, right, so look at the road information that we've got. What were we looking for? This type of parked vehicle parked over here like this. What do we think? So then we go one step further and analyse it. Now, sometimes with imagination being limited, autistic people have trouble, but not when the whole lot's on a photo and they've been there and seen the thing, remember it. Because it's wrote, it's printed in, just like that number plate was. So now we can go into it and think, what did the driver do when they saw this? And so now they're learning driver behaviour patterns as a result of your own knowledge. You're actually picking up the autistic rote knowledge that they can learn very well and teach them to go one step beyond and learn anticipation techniques and decision making as a result of what they see in a photo, which is a result of a scene that they've been in and have experienced. So that's how the autistic brain can pick knowledge up. Different completely to ADHD hazard spotting, but they can remember things like that. It's incredible. So sometimes you have to link it into those memories and memory recall, think about things like that. Something that really drives that brain. You can really, really find something that drives the brain. Something that you can remember and play back. Very, very important to log on to that because it's like very much a recorded technique that some autistic people would like because it's rote recall. But then you can expand on the rote recall and think, what would happen if this happened here, that happened there, because it's right in front of the face. They've been in the scene, took a shot of it, So it's easily recognizable. And so they can easily teach them things like anticipation and the what if because of what they've seen and what they've actually recorded on that photo, being raised. What do you think?
It's fascinating the way we can link it all in the extra work that can go on to help build the knowledge and understanding. Now, with these conditions, we've spoke about almost out of the car, so hazards and anticipation and planning. How can we use the strengths for the practical skills in the car?
Right, I'm going to give you an example now of the autistic vagueness, right? How can you use examples of practical skills in the car? Now, there's a list in my mind of about 50,000 different ways to do it. So we need some more pinpoint precision in the question. Don't worry, this is something that driving instructors often have trouble with in the car. See if you can rephrase that so the autistic brain here can understand it.
So when we're starting early on in the learning process and we're understanding use of controls, pedals,
Right.
steering wheel, will there be a way that we can help, say, an autistic learner more efficiently?
So they're dealing with something a bit earlier on when they start like getting the foot controls right, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, our memory recall, with the autism spectrum, especially when the manual car users are out there, you can say something like, we don't memorize pedals per se, position, direction, very important that they know, but little keywords. People on the spectrum like keywords. So what we do with pedals, which a lot of people on the spectrum really like, is to have a different set of instructions for each foot. So it's not the pedal that's got the instruction applied to it, it's your feet. So with the left foot, we always use the up and the down, so it's left foot all the way down. And then foot slowly up to the biting point and hold, and then gently up. And it works like that. Now, the right foot's on and off. So it's easy gently on the brakes and easy gently off the brakes and easy on the gas and easy off the gas. So it's on, off, on, off. So one of them it's an on, off, and the other one it's an up, down. So it makes it a lot easier for them to understand the feet because the proprioception can be a problem with autism. They're not thinking of which pedal they need, they're thinking of which foot to use and how far that foot's going to be away from them. That's why some of them start panicking when they start to put the clutch down for the first time and it goes down and down and down and down, it won't stop. And they're thinking, oh, is it anywhere? Yes, it is. You keep going, squeeze, 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 all the way. Won't break it. No, it won't break it. Sometimes I get frightened of breaking it and things like that. So you're supposed to do that all the way down and hold it, well done. And I learned to go slow. I learned to move it up slow. And I'm going to count you 3, 2, 1, and slowly up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this is what we do from cockpit drill level. If they have that left foot all the way down, what's going to happen when you say, right, take the foot off the pedal? And they're just going to go flop. Of course they will. But if they're taught, right, now they're going to go up slowly. Are you ready? And sometimes they count them to get the brain ready and the body ready. 3, 2, 1. And then up to 1, 2, 3, 4. And sometimes we play follow with the foot. So sometimes I've got my dual controls and I have the left foot all the way down. So the speed of my left foot and their left foot matches each other. So stop 2 feet together. 1, 2, 3. And one autistic boy counted to 28 doing that. And 28, and his mother was in the back and she was laughing. I said, don't worry if it's 28, because average is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was 28. He says, he wants to do it smoothly. I says, of course you want to do it smoothly. He says, you wait until we start doing gear changes. It's going to be so smooth. Because once again, with the rote learning, that left foot has done nothing else but go all the way down to the bottom in one go. and then slowly come up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's doing it right from cockpit drill. You think of how easy that's going to make it when they do the first move offs and when they do the gear changing, things like that. That left foot's always come up slowly. It reduces a large amount of stalls and a large amount of stress because you've used the rote autistic brain to remember that counting. Left foot always goes up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It always knows. It's very, very clever. It's a clever brain. You can program that clever brain to operate that clever foot. So, all the way down, and how are you going to do it? To say to them, I'm going to count it, they say to me, so they learn themselves how to do it. And then by the time they're doing the gear change and everything, they don't need to count anymore, it's automatic. Because that auto rote is now set in. They don't need to count anymore. It's all very clever stuff. Program that brain, you program it.
You mentioned earlier dyslexia and creativity. How does that come into the learning process?
Oh, yeah, some amazing solutions to problems. I've had somebody try to redesign a junction. Why do they have this junction like this? It's all out of position. Everything's not working. If I was to redesign this, it'd be like this and like that. And, I say, right, okay, so let's see what we've actually got. So examine what we actually do have. And thinking, what actually is there first that we cannot change? So look at it first from a perspective of things that can't be altered. For example, anything going on, we code the actual stability state of the junctions, where the timing of the lights run, things like this. And then we think, what can change? How can we improve the safety? So then we're dealing with the strategies of the brain. So they've got to see the creativity side, because the mind can take flight with it. You've got to bring it back down to earth and thinking, right, if these situations cannot be changed, we know that these situations within the boundary, they can. And so dyslexic people are very, very good at brainstorming, but they've got to have the boundaries put in. So what we do is a bit of mind mapping. So what we do is say, how can we change this junction? So you can put a whole junction down, you put a big circle around it, and then say, right, so which aspects can we alter? And so you get several different branches coming off the main string there. And you'd be amazed how these brains can interact with this kind of material. And so they reach a key point on that. Oh, right, how will the speed get affected by it? And then to be able to use their own speed and how it affects everybody else's. And so they can see a situation where, oh, if I go into this junction too fast, this will happen here. So, right, how will that affect this part of the plan here? So it's very important to plan ahead when they see a junction. Other people, will they be able to see and react in time? Things like this. So then they can watch other drivers react. I usually stand them at a junction and say, right, let's see how other drivers interact with each other and get this interaction going. So let's see if this plan of action works. So first of all, we get the plan drawn to a boundary to stop it taking flight. We look at the things that can be changed. We then brainstorm it with a nice big load of mind mapping. They love that, because that means a creative mind can take flight within that boundary. And, oh yeah, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And they come up with some incredible solutions. You won't believe the solutions these people are saying, because sometimes other people would not even think of things like that. And it is incredible that the difference of the dyslexic brain can make. Now, 1 in 10 people have got dyslexia. They're not all going to be as creative as that, but we can encourage creativity in that brain because that's an natural part of it. These people are used to seeing life outside the box, and to be able to see life within, it's totally different. The perspective's different. Dyslexic people can sometimes get the lefts and rights mixed up, the directions, that's quite common. To be able to get the perspective in difference, that can be a problem as well. So yeah, we can be able to tolerate that a bit. But they can look at a problem and they can think about it for ages to find a solution. To many dyslexic people, myself included, being a person with dyslexia myself, I look at a problem and think there's got to be a solution to it. It's just that I've not found it yet. But there's got to be one. Let's have a look and see if we can find. Yeah, oh, I'm terrible with that. I will not say no, there isn't one. I'll say, right, there's got to be a solution to it. Let's see if we can find, because that means, I mean, to me, I don't think there is no solution. I think there is a solution, but I haven't found it yet. So let's see how much we can find. What can we change? How can we improve this? And often they can take other people's ideas and improve those. And dyslexic people are quite good at doing that when they get a set idea and think, oh, it's got a weakness in there. They can see weaknesses quick and then be able to think, how can we improve this? How can we get this better? And if anybody says, no, you can't do it, there's a few of us that will say, no, I'm very sorry, there is a solution to it. It's just that I've not found it yet. And that's how they're going to think. So, yeah, brainstorming, bit of mind mapping. They love that. They love it.
What were your strengths? I'd like to go back to the beginning. We spoke about your
Don't
diagnosis.
really know what it is.
What
Say
are your
again.
strengths?
What strength are you talking about? Yeah.
You said when you got your autism diagnosis,
Oh, that was hard. Yeah.
you didn't like, but then you went and you didn't accept the negatives and you found your positives.
I knew that
What
that was me in that document, but if I followed down that route, I wouldn't be now talking to you. I got to find different ways. Yes.
what were your positives?
The first thing I looked at was my mensa certificate. And this takes me back to when my husband first knew me, and I've been married for about 3 or 4 years. My self-esteem was absolutely, I mean, rock bottom. Absolutely big bum bottom, you know. I haven't got a brain because I'm useless, can't do this, can't do that. Bear in mind, I wasn't diagnosed autistic at the time. But I was just wondering what on earth was the matter with me. I couldn't do anything. Then my husband ended up referring me to a hypnotherapist. And it was he who discovered I got a brain. And it happened in a very odd way. This hypnotherapist was there in the morning and he was collecting his morning mail. The post had just arrived. And he suddenly looks at a pamphlet and he says, mankind's commonest disease. I says, oh, that's dental caries, tooth decay. And he looks at me kind of gone out. You know, says, how do you know that? And I was thinking, well, it's just one of these facts. I just picked it up. You find a lot of people in the autism spectrum will pick up random facts and just kind of blurt them out. Sometimes we do that. And it says, well, he says, what else do you know? So it started off with all the knowledge and everything. And when he said I was Mensa standard, Mensa is this organisation that only takes top 2% of the population as members. It's not brain memory, recall, or anything. That is brain speed. Everybody can do the exams that Mensa set you. But everything Mensa do is timed against the clock, so only the top 2% get in. And he said to me, he says, I'm going to be your invigilator. I'm going to prove to you that he got a brain. He says, I'm going to write to Mensa headquarters in Birmingham. I'm going to get them to send the papers over. I'm going to invigilate your exams so you can get in. Now, I was like, you got to be crazy. What chance have you got? And the amazing thing is that I did take the exams. This is like back in 96, 97, and I did get in. I did get in, and I got in very, very easily as well. Proven IQ of 152 in the top 1%. Now, the thing was, if you're thinking you got no brain, and a lot of people on the spectrum believe they haven't got a brain, and I'm just thinking to myself, that report, that diagnosis paper, if it says it needs help with 1, 2, 3, 4, doesn't that contradict what Mensa's saying about my brain? It's just like the two don't go together somehow. There was a kind of clash in there. And I know there's an emotional quotient and a intelligence quotient. There's loads of different levels of this. But all I could see at that point was somebody writing a report, looking at me from an entirely different angle to the angle that Mensa was looking at. And I had Mensa's membership card right in front of my face that proved, because autistic people are always looking for evidence, like scientists see, to have that card was proof of evidence that Mensa had accepted me as a member. I'm still in Mensa now all these years later. That proves I've got a brain, you see. I carry that card on me all the time, so if someone says to me I haven't got a brain, they can show me that. So you get used to that on the autism spectrum, which means you get bullied all the time for when people don't think you've got a brain, see. So I thought to myself, the first thing I've got to do is start off with my own brain. What can it do? And, this was horrible, because in 2006, when I had the diagnosis done, I was 40 then, so it was late part of 06 or 07. And so I had the diagnosis done. At that time, I had no qualifications. I got my driver's license and mental certificate. That was all I got at the time of diagnosis. And it just so happened that the first bit of IEM stuff was being done. I had a boy from the IEM who was a university lecturer, and I was his observer, so I was teaching him to an advanced driver. And he says, "Why at university?" I said, "I've got no qualifications." And so I was thinking, right, so now there's two people saying I've got a brain. There's a hypnotherapist, and there's this person who's come to me for help for IEM, and he's a university lecturer, and he's saying I've got a brain as well. And it was getting so the evidence was kind of mounting up, and I was thinking, right, you can see some deficiencies of that report. Did that report give me an IQ test? No. Did the psychiatrist at the time mention anything about brains and what my brain could do? No, they didn't. And so you could see holes in this report here. And those holes were caused by a lack of positives. Now, one did have made a lovely balanced report if something good would have come in there saying, hey, this person does have a brain. You know, I mean, they got problems maybe, 1, 2, 3, 4, need support, but they got a brain, see, you know. And it's just like, Mensa saw half of the person and they saw the other half. And it was kind of like trying to get these two halves and get them to combine together, see. And so, I must admit, this man who came to me wanting to pass his advanced driving test, he was head of his department at a university. So he would know somebody potential when they saw him. He says, "It is my wish," he said, "that I'm going to drop you off in my car outside the university's gates and have you walk straight through them." Now, this, you know, I had no qualifications at all. And I was thinking, this guy is absolutely wacko, because no one on this earth am I ever going to do that. Now, look, it says, "I've been looking. I've found courses for adults that don't need A-levels to get in. You can start off with a foundation degree, then go to a bachelor's degree, then a master's. You can keep on going, you see." So I started off, remember I was running the driving school, then the driving school was already running. I started with a foundation degree course part-time. Then I joined the Open University and I was taking a bachelor's with them. The two degrees are running concurrently, and I was running my driving school underneath all that lot. Now, one university found out about the other, and I had this phone call. And the phone call says to me, "We have heard that you are taking too many credit points per year," because you've got a certain amount, you see. It's 120 a year for full-time. Now it's like 180 or something crazy. And it says, "You're taking too many points." I says, "One of these degrees has got to stop." And I thought, I'm not going to lose it because I'm learning too much and I love doing this. I says, "Right." I says, "Have you got all the assignment records in front of you on your computer screens now?" I said, "Over the phone." "Yes, we have," they said. I says, "Right, I'm going to ask you two questions. Point number one, have all those assignments that I've sent been up to standard?" "Yes," they said. I says, "Right, question number two, have any of those assignments ever been late?" "No," they said. And I said, "Well, get off this phone and bother somebody else," and I put the phone down. So I carried on. And I took a master's on top of that as well. So I got 3 of them together and passed graduated one, then the second, then the third, and then took a PhD. I was 8 years at university. I was 8 years. And in those 8 years between 07 and 15, I took 4 degrees in that 8-year period. And what I found out was that while I was halfway through the doctorate degree, the special needs department, because I've got an autism department at the University of Leicester, they were great. They says, right, I want you to go into our experiment because we're doing experiments. I says, okay. He says, I've got one fellow doing a very high degree who wants to compare brains. I thought, wow, what are they like with these brains? And what he had to do was that they'd chosen people doing the same kind of level, so level qualification, so the standards were there. Some from the everyday people and some from the neurodivergent people. And we had to go into this room and get the brain speeds. I don't know how they did it, but it was like in a basement somewhere. There was no windows in the building, and I was wired up to this computer, and you had to respond at certain times to certain prompts. The measuring speed and reactions. I was half a day in there. They found out that my learning speed was 6 times the average. 6 times. That was like every day being 6 times 24 hours. And that explained to my husband, and that explained to me and a lot of other people how I could take degrees and do 1 3,000-word assignment every week or so and send them out to these different units and still with me driving school. It explained to them how I was able to do that. The high level 1 autistic brain is very strong. You've got to be a high level 1 to get a brain like that. Autism is a big spectrum. It's a big one. There are people on the spectrum that I think probably will have a lot of problems learning how to drive. The some will take years, but those are the people that need to keep the motivation running. And if they or anyone like them was to read a diagnosis report with all those negatives in and to put them off for a start, they would think, I haven't got a hope of ever learning to drive a car. Because all I'm going to do is have troubles with 1, 2, 3, 4. And as I get older, I've got problems now with 5, 6, 7, 8 as well. So I can't do anything. And parents as well think the kids are washed up when they get a report like that. And is it really worth little Tommy getting a driving license because he's just been diagnosed on the autism spectrum? And it's so sad. You're dealing with people's lives here. There will always be those who will be the stereotypical image of the person in the corner on the road, rocking, spinning wheels, being happy in the little world, probably not learning to communicate or speak too well. But there'll always be those with the doctorates as well on the other end that everyone seems to forget. And when driving instructors see one of us in the car, they've got to think, what is the potential with this brain? What can it do? Because I wish that people in the past, when I was at school, when I was at college, had found out what the university had told me at that time about that brain. Yeah, so basically, that university told me I got a brain. Now, the thing is, now, look at the evidence mounting up with the brains. We've got Mensa, right? You got my hypnotherapist saying I have one. They've got the fellow that came to me from wanting to pass his advanced driving certificate to his master's head of a department. He said he got one. You got Colin saying how well in the first place that started all of this, and now all of a sudden you got these university people. Now, you put all that on one side of a nice big fat seesaw, and you put like that diagnosis report on the other. Now, the whole lot's just going to go flying, isn't it? Right? So that's what you got to do. You got to weigh it up. You got to. We're very, very much scientific people. People on the spectrum like to evaluate things. I mean, obviously, we call little professors maybe little psychologists because we tend to look inside and think, how does everything work? You know, we like finding things out. We like everything factual. We like evidence. We like facts. But the facts were then saying, if that's what people are saying, and they've got proof evidence in certain places, then that proves 100% that I have got a brain. So therefore, there's a lot of that report that is either incomplete or biased or left a great deal of factors up to assumption or symbol. They didn't take them into account when the thing was processed. So, which way are we going? Do you believe you're going to have a brain or not? Now, so the entire lot then comes down to decision making. It comes down to self-belief. Have I got this brain? And the evidence is saying yes, you have. Now, this is what I do with a lot of people, and I'm training instructors to do this as well, is that when the neurodivergent people, they always say, I can't do this, I can't do that, and the negative is always, they say, right. I say to them, it's not you that can't do it, it's because your brain can't do it yet. So we're going to teach your brain how to do it. So we separate the brain from the person. You say, you're not a brain, you have a brain. It's like you got a pair of jeans, pair of trainers. It's like you got a mobile phone, you can set your mobile phone up, you can set your brain up. It's things like that. It's something they've got rather than something they are. And so you can say, right, you can now be able to set up your brain. And this is how we're going to do it. I've actually set up brains to help them learn. Some brains have got to be taught as to how to learn. It's incredible. Get people learning theory over the internet, and all they know is how to second guess it, because that's what they believe learning is. It's how to guess the right answer. They don't know how to find it. The brain's not been taught how to look for it. But once they're able to think, I say, right, thinking time, right, wait, thinking time, preventing the guesswork from coming in and saying, right, thinking time, think. You're going to take it slowly. Any questions to help us think? Let's have a look. So we take the thinking process apart and teach the brain how to actually think. It's incredible. And then all of a sudden, they're getting the answers right on the theory test through thinking rather than through guesswork. They're able to think it through, probably for the first time in their lives, that they're thinking things out. So you're teaching them how to manage the brain. It's incredible stuff. I love learning about brains. Incredible things. I love brains. What do you think? Yeah?
I love it. On the topic of brains and talking about the positive sides of our neurodivergent pupils and the strengths that come with it, I'd like to have a little bit of fun if we can, Julia.
Sure.
I would like you to use the knowledge and experience that you've got. And can you explain how we would build that, what you spoke about earlier, that ideal driver? So let's use all of the neurodivergent conditions. How do we create, with all of the positives, that perfect driver? So before we get to the next part of the show, here is your discount code from our sponsors, Knowledgeably Instructor Training. And the discount code is MSP10, and that will get you 10% off their client-centered learning Part 3 and Standards Check in-person award-winning workshop. So that is MSP10 for 10% off their workshop.
Well, first of all, it's obvious that a perfect driver has got to be systematic and to have set systems in place. We've got to know the rules, we've got to know the regulations, we've got to know everything about the vehicle and how other vehicles interact with each other. We've got to learn how the road works, and to every time they drive, you're able to memorize and recall all of this. And here's where the autism spectrum brain comes in. And they can look at the road, if they're trained to do so, in a very systematic way. So there's no more chaos anymore, there's no more fear, there's no more stress anymore. Everything works in a set way. And they have their role to play in making all of this work together. You have to teach these brains teamwork. Because teamwork's not natural for the autistic brain. You've got to teach you how to work as a team and belong in one of the group members to make it work, as traffic does on the road. But as long as they know the rules of the road, they've got to know the system, how the world works. There's the language of the road itself, the language of the drivers use is different again, and then be able to build all this together in a rote system that they can remember and recall, and then to be able to have homework on it, like I say, and they take the photographs and everything, and then to analyse what they see, because the person on the spectrum likes to analyse what they see. And then you have the systematic analytical side, but you also need somebody to be sharp. You need somebody who drives to be able to spot a hazard quickly, react to it before any danger happens. They've got to be sharp spotters. So this is where the ADHD brain comes in. When they learn how to become sharp at hazard perception, which the ADHD brain will naturally do, they can be taught very sharp to spot a hazard very, very quickly. There's many times when my husband's been driving and I can spot hazards around in the teeth and he's not aware of. And I say, watch out, the so-and-so. How do you know that was it? ADHD brains. And it's incredible. Once again, the ADHD brain needs to be trained towards the spotting hazard work to be able to, I mean, with the combined brain, that's what we do. We alternate the sequence of the lessons. So we do one lesson based on the routine for the autistic brain, then we do another lesson in the same time period based on a hazard perception to engage the ADHD part. So we train the two brains together. It's incredible how it works. And then we're dealing with, right, we've got the hazards, right? We know where we are. This hazard, how can we prevent this accident happening? When you see this accident happening, we've got a system for driving that we use. Then we can anticipate other hazards happening. And how can we design something that helps us? So, right, then we do the old dyslexia brainstorming, right, which works wonders. So we're thinking, right, okay, this is a situation. This is the routine that we're using on one side, and there's the hazards that we can see on the other. What does a driver need to be able to bring this bit and this bit in with this environment that we're in? How are we going to build this driver up? So, and that, of course, is a strategy kind of thing. You're teaching the creativity within the boundaries of the road and regulations and the car and the basically communication, things like this that drivers need. You're building a driver, and I do that in most of the lessons, and I've got people with neurodivergent brains. You split the brain up into its individual factors. What that does is provide a routine, if it's split equally for the person on the spectrum, to be able to engage all the different parts and build it up. The second thing is, because the lesson is split into each individual factor, that means the ADHD brain will keep its concentration going. There's always something new for it to concentrate on, so it won't disappear, spot a squirrel, get distracted, or get zoned out somewhere, or go into neutrals, I call it. And that brain needs to be constantly on the go, so that's why lessons need changing like that. And you got to work together with all these types of brain to make them run. But I honestly think you get an excellent driver if you build up a brain like that, because the brain drives the body, and the body drives your car. So if you start by building a brain, then you get a good driven body, and then you get a good driven car. That's how I see it.
And that you just spoke about, we've got our perfect driver. We can create that.
Yeah, yeah.
Taking the approach that you've mentioned there covers everyone. You know, if we start with the brain and we work to that person's brain, or we help that person's brain, everything's just going to fall from there, and we have the driver.
Well, I think honestly that's to do, and also the GDE matrix ties into this thing, that it starts from the top down, as in the driver, with the driver themselves. Yeah.
Starting with our driver, and then absolutely working down to the skills. How do we get this brain operating the body, operating the car?
Exactly. It does go down to skill level, which is exactly what the GDE matrix is. Yeah.
And I think this has been really insightful for me, because we do have that image initially. I've got ADHD, can you teach me how to drive? And my first thought is normally, right, okay, your concentration's going to wander,
Yeah,
you're going to be fidgeting, like you've said.
yeah,
Not go into the lesson thinking, oh, this is going to be difficult. It's like, I
yeah,
need the,
that's the thing. Yeah, so it needs to have the knowledge of how to deal with a certain type of brain. Yes, it all
yeah.
starts with the brain. Everything's in the head. It all starts in there. Yeah.
And then we spend our time looking for that person's strengths instead of trying to avoid their weaknesses.
Or even trying
Um,
to correct the weaknesses. Yeah, there's a lot of people do. Yeah. You're
sticking
not
to,
molding a person into a certain type of mold. You're going with that person as they are and thinking, that's what they're doing. How can we use this in driving? How can we make a positive out of it? That's what you're doing. Yeah. Yeah.
we've just built our perfect driver.
Yeah.
Are there any other strengths or positives that we can look for when we're taking on our neurodivergent learners for the first time?
Right. Depends where they are on the spectrum and what neurodivergent they've got. That's obviously with autistic people. Look for their special interests. Some of them have got really, really deep, strong interests in probably a certain subject is usually quite deep. If any way you can relate that subject to driving, traffic, the driving task or anything at all, it'll be a massive help. I had one pupil who loved trains, and I had another one who loved buses. And you can really, they love to be on the road and see them in real life. And I use that as a motivation goal, so they can just say, "You wait till you're on the road, and you can just wait to this level crossing and see this huge train, or go down to the bus station and see the buses coming out." I think there's that kind of thing, and it's a massive, massive it's a boost for confidence to be able to use anything to do with that special interest that they've got. Usually it's, there's quite a few fandoms around that they're into, but sometimes it's animals or machines. Use anything they can, anything possible to link it into the driving task and be able to use that as a strength because that really picks them up. Also, you're going to find the motivation. You've got to keep that high. And a lot of them to stop them going negative because the negatives will always say, "I'm not good as everybody else, I'm slow," etc. You can remind them how much they're achieving because you'll be able to see the work that they put in. Now, here's where we don't let you down. We're not the kind of people who'd like sleep in, for example, or get drunk the night before. We're the kind of person who's dedicated to a lesson. I mean, I've had people when I've driven into the street to pick them up, and they're sitting on the curb outside the house and racing down the street, waving to me, "Hi," because it's the highlight of the whole week is to get in that car and do this. And it's got to be like that to bring the motivation out of us, to bring that passion out of us, to bring that fire out of us, saying, "Hey, here's somebody who understands me." And this is a massive, massive key to teaching us. We do not see the people in society the way that people in society see each other, right? How do people on the spectrum see me? They see me as somebody they can turn to. I have pupils that have years and years past wanting help with something totally different from driving because I'm the only person that they can trust. I helped one of them start a business, helped another one get a job, and had another one get into uni. It's things like that. Totally different with relationships. I've had them with relationships and things like this, helping people out here. Now, it's totally different. Say one of them from suicide. I say another one's friend from suicide. It's quite a big, big, deep thing you're doing. But that is making yourself being the one that they come to. The people who are neurodivergent look at me and they say, "You're not one that's going to gossip. You're not going to tell tales about me on the Facebook. You're not going to be laughing at me when I'm trying to learn in the car. You're not going to be the one who's going to be bullying me online or anything like this. You're not going to spread anything about your driving instructors or have them laughing at me. No, you won't do that because you're here to help. And I know you're going to be here to help me. You're here to help me. You're going to do the best you can to help me. You're the kind of person who wants to help others. You're the kind of person who's going to do the best to help bring out the best in other people. You're a person I can trust. You're a person who brings confidence in me. You're a person who's there to assist me. That's how the neurodivergent people look at me. Everyday people, they just look at me and think, she's weird. She's not tall. She's not leggy. She's not blonde. She's not the kind of person who's in fashion. She's not the sort of person who watches Big Brother. She's not the sort of person who wants celebrity come dancing. She's not the person who watches EastEnders. She doesn't go to the pub. She doesn't gamble. She doesn't drink. She doesn't do drugs. She's not watching the latest computer games. She hasn't got the latest mobile phone. So there's a massive gap between everyday people and us lot. People. Yeah. Because they look at me and they think, oh, this person's, she's no good. She's not going to gossip. She's not going to be any good in the conversation. Let's have a chat about everything else. If I was to mention so-and-so, she wouldn't understand a word we're talking about. She's a person we can laugh at. That's what an everyday person would look at. But the neurodivergent people don't. They don't care about what clothes you're wearing or what you look at or what television shows you're watching or how you wear shoes. They look at you and think, I don't want you to gossip. You're not going to bully. You're not going to laugh at me or tell any tales or say I'm the slowest of all the pupils that you've had. You're not going to be the one who's going to let me down. You're going to stay with me. You're not going to drop me, say you can't teach me and go to somebody else. You see what's happening? That's the kind of person you've got to be when you're with your people. And I say to my people, it doesn't matter when you send a message up because I'll answer it. Not at the time when you want it to, but I'll answer it. So it's 4 a.m. and it beep, beep, beep. And following there, you pick it up and say, no problem, I'm here. Anything you want, just give me a shout. Not be a set time, but, yeah. Because I had a person once who rang me at 4 a.m. in the morning wanting a lesson on that spot. And I said, do you know what time it is? It's 4 o'clock. But of course, they lose track of time. A lot of us on the spectrum do. Of course, they apologise forwards and say no problem. But the everyday people have a good laugh in the pub about that. But we won't. And that's the way it is. You accept the people as they are. And thinking you can call at 4 o'clock, leave a message at 4 o'clock, but they won't come out at 4 o'clock, right? So it's like you give them the ground rules and they follow. You be the sort of person that they want you to be. You'd be there for them. And then they'll be there for you in return. Fantastic people. It's all about ranging. It's all brains. Yeah. They don't see people as what they look like. They see what brains they have. That's what they do. Yeah.
I think we've identified that you've definitely got a brain, Julia.
Thanks. Yeah.
Definitely got a brain.
Yeah.
I've really, really loved this episode. I've been looking forward to filming this. We've been talking about it for a few weeks, getting ready to record. And I think looking at the positives is such an asset in our lessons with all of our learners, but in particular with our neurodivergent learners, not coming with the assumption that there's going to be the negatives that come with it. Let's focus on the positives of all of our pupils and use that to structure the lesson. And we're going to have a much more fun time in the car while we're teaching our learners.
It's fantastic, honestly, yeah. It's been good. I've enjoyed being here tonight. It's been great.
It's great fun, always an absolute pleasure to chat with you. And what I'd like to do now for listeners is I'll talk about the mini series that is coming up with yourself and link to the Patreon Talking Send with Dr. Julia Malkin MBE. And that is all available already on Patreon. 10 episodes, 10 tips for teaching our neurodiverse learners. And that's going to be going out weekly after this episode as a mini series as well. If you sign up to Patreon, you'll get access to that mini series. But you'll also get access to I think it's now over 70 short videos from Julia with lots of insights on how we can help our learners in the car. And a lot of these videos cross over and just help everyone, but it also helps us understand some of the conditions that we might see in driving lessons. So I'll leave the link in the description, and you can obviously drop me or Julia a message for more information on that. But before we do wrap the episode up, would you like to tell people, Julia, how they can reach you and what it is you can offer to help driving instructors?
Well, it's going to be quite a big list. I hope you're going to put a link on the end of this podcast for the
I
contact
tell you what,
details.
you go for it, and I'll put the list in the show notes as well.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, the courses that I offer courses in Kai for those who can make it to Mansfield Notts. There's online training that I offer for ADIs, which is a lot of neurodiversity learning. There's courses training autism, ADHD, etc. There's a PDI course that's the last resort that helps PDIs pass their part 3. And that includes those who've got neurodiverse pupils, those who are neurodivergent themselves. And yeah, so PDIs can get help as well. There's a lot of workshops that I offer if you're part of an association, if you're in a group, or if you've got some friends even. There's workshops you offer online through Zoom or even in person, because I've got 3 workshops lined up this year to travel to. There's also the files that I've written. There's a lot of material. There's quite a lot of different subjects I've written. There's ADHD. There's one theory test file so people can learn all about the theory before they even go on an app. They'll know all the answers and the reasons why before they even get trained on the questions on an app. There's all the special needs behavioural patterns that are put in a file called the Ascend files, which is brilliant 27,000 word document that tells you everything about the kinds of behaviours you'll see in the car, like stress, frustration, aggression, communication systems you can use to help us, all different types of support. Then there's the ADHD files that go through one junction after another, and the kind of behaviour you'll anticipate an ADHD person possibly showing and what it actually means when they show it. So it goes through roundabouts and T-junctions and different road situations, how we cope with traffic and the kind of behaviour patterns you'll see, and how to support ADHD people. And then there's a test pass files which I've written which help people of any single type of neurodiversity or none to be able to get together and pass the test, because they suffer so much with nerves on the day. Everybody does. And it goes through preparation to deal with nerves through the mock test system. There's nerves on the day itself. There's the different types of nerves that each part of the test will give us. The nerves you feel in the car park are different to the nerves you're going to get when we start reversing, for example. And to be able to think about how those nerves are going to affect you in advance, what support systems you can practice with your instructor. There's a lot of online one-to-one support I can give people as well. There's online one-to-one theory test training. There's online one-to-one ADI help. ADIs can contact me about the pupils and say there's a certain pupil that have got a problem. I say, right, no trouble. And once I had one session when a driving instructor came about 4 or 5 pupils, and they ought to talk through each pupil and give them advice related to that particular person. So there's a lot of advice I can give people. There's loads and loads. I'm on the Facebook. I'm on the Excel with Julia Malkin MBE. Find us on Excel page on Facebook. That's the Facebook page on the account. I'm on the WhatsApp as well. I think hopefully Josh will put this phone number. Yeah, the phone number that'll go into the comments after this recording is made. That'll go in there as well. So I'm on the WhatsApp. You can go on text on Facebook as well. There's quite a different ways it goes with me. There's an email address as well, which hopefully is going to put on too, so that's good. So there's quite a few services, and if what you want isn't on the list, then I'm sure I can provide something. So once again, dyslexic brain is always thinking there's always a solution to every problem. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just the fact I've not thought about it yet. But there'll always be a solution to it. You think about that, yeah?
You wasn't lying when you said it was a long list.
I thought it would be a big list. There's one thing
I
autistic
will
people are
get,
not very good at doing, and that's telling lies. We honestly can't lie to save our back teeth because we can't invent the backup story fast enough. We get into trouble if we stop lying. So,
so I will put some of that in the show notes. But if you need any support from Julia, whatever it is, whether it's training to become a driving instructor, whether it's developing as an ADI, or supporting your neurodiverse learners, I'm sure Julia can help somewhere on the way. And if she's not got something already, don't worry, something will be invented to help you. So, yeah, lots of useful information there, Julia. I'll get as much as I can in the description. I'll get your contact information in there so people can reach out. But
that's
from me,
brilliant.
Julia, thank you so much for your time tonight filming the episode. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Josh. That's great. That's very, very good. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you to Julia for tonight's episode, and thank you to our sponsors, Knowledgeably Instructor Training. You can find all of their award-winning content at www.adikit.co.uk. So make sure you check them out. Thank you.